Caleb Williams just sent a very loud message to the NFL about the playing conditions, which I think it's one that's not just about football. It's about player safety, the conditions of fields, and something that the league is eventually going to have to listen to some players on. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're getting ready for training camp, and because the Bears have a few names that could become trade assets or end up fighting for their lives, Jordan McFadden is one of the sneaky depth pieces that the Chicago Bears added while other teams are also managing or monitoring. And could Kiran Amegadjie and Sewell also be on the roster bubble? We're going to talk about all this plus more right after this. What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content for today, y'all. And Caleb Williams is talking about he calls out the NFL on the grass fields, which is surprisingly enough, right? And, he talks about the number of turf, right? Like, and this is something that I don't think for the casual NFL fans, maybe they really give a shit about, right? This is one of those things that some fans are going to look at and say, are really players complaining about this? But, with the World Cup ending and wrapping up, Caleb Williams took to social media in the weekend, and he said this in regard to it. He posted a photo of someone taking care of the grass field with the caption. He captioned the image by saying this: "Why can't we have that too?" Now, and also said, worth the cost. It's been a lot of talk for those that really pay attention to this type of thing outside of just the football part of it. It's been a big conversation over the last few years over the number of NFL stadiums that have gone to turf, right? And, it said that the real grass fields, right, especially Soldier Field. Soldier Field has a real grass field. Now, we have seen some downside to that before when the Bears had to completely replace the field as well, right? But talked about the fact that not every player has the benefit of something like that, right? And it's not just about comfort. There has been reports and studies that have done that says lower body injuries and the risk to lower body injuries and player safety actually grows with turf. It lessens with real grass fields, right? And so this is a topic that it seems like a lot of players have kind of touched on and talked about a little bit here and there in regards to it. But Caleb Williams is now talking about it. And, of course, he's the Madden cover athlete and stuff like this. And it's just one of those interesting, I think, talking points to see if the NFL eventually, listens to this a little bit more. Like you guys know, I'll be 40 in December. Like, yeah, I'm old, right? And even when I played high school football, it was majority of grass, right? But we did have some of our opponents that did have turf. And, it's a different substance to play on. It's a different texture to play on. Now, I won't say that I ever contributed to any injury that I had or anything like that, but it is something that, players, especially with how many lower body injuries and how, much the game, the football is trying to get out of that, even though players are recovering from lower body injuries like ACL tears and even Achilles injuries a lot more than what they ever did, whereas those were once looked at as that was it. That was almost the end of your career. But at the same time, it's like, I wonder if players are going to keep getting louder and louder about this, right? And if owners will eventually, respond to it. And that's really what this comes down to. This is owners. This isn't even the NFL as a whole. I guess the NFL could try to mandate or something in regards to using grass fields over turf, but it really comes down to ownership. And so luckily the Bears, like I said, that we don't have that situation, but because half your game is going to be played out on the road, you don't have that control all the time. So it's just, it's interesting that Caleb put his voice behind that. And I do think as Caleb Williams and his voice grows more and more around the NFL and the things that he says and stuff like that, just to watch it, monitor it, and see if this becomes something that more people are talking about. And as more and more Americans as well are getting into World Cup soccer and international soccer, it's something that I think more people can look at. As it stands right now, 14 NFL stadiums currently have artificial turf that's entering the 2026 season, right? And then when you look at some of the worst stadiums with that turf, the New York Jets and the Giants MetLife Stadium is definitely one that stands out. And there have been a lot of serious injuries on those fields. And like I said, there have been studies that have actually been done and look at this, that it's a significantly higher risk playing on turf for lower leg injuries than on grass. It's significant, right? And the trends of that continue to rise every year as more and more stadiums have that artificial turf. So I think in regards to that, we're going to see. Like there has been a big push for this to happen. And I do think it's going to come down to a point where, maybe NFL teams have no choice but to just deal with the grass. And that takes more managing to do, and you have to have people that manage the stadium and the grass in regards to that. But if it's about your players' health, is it not necessarily the best thing to do for a team? And, we'll see what happens in regards to that. But let me know what you guys think down below. Is this something that matters to you as an NFL watcher? Is it something that you look at and you're like, players are complaining about things that maybe you don't care about as a fan? Let me know what you guys think in regards to that. But I do want to talk about, let's get back to the football field. So Jordan McFadden, right, is a name that, the Bears brought in this offseason, and that reportedly a number of teams are monitoring to see what happens with Jordan McFadden as well. Right now, the case of this is that Jordan McFadden is a name that all the teams are watching because he's a former 5th-round pick by the Chargers in 2023. And we brought him in last year as a depth piece to add to the roster in 2025. He played 27 total snaps in 7 games with the Bears, and 2 of those snaps being on the special team side of it, right? But he did play for us as well in the divisional round of the playoffs against the Los Angeles Rams, and he started at left guard for the Chicago Bears. In regards to that, and when I started, he played played at left guard some for the Chicago Bears. And you look at it with Lodge Trapillo being out and stuff like that, he received some praise for coming in and replacing Joe Thuney at the last second and playing pretty well at that for the Chicago Bears. And so now entering 2026, McFadden is looked at as one of the clear backups on this team, which having depth in your offensive line, especially an offensive line that was as good as what the Chicago Bears were, is good. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like he's any risk to not make the final 53-man roster, but it does become an interesting training camp for him as well, as that reportedly there are some interest from some other teams in Jordan McFadden and what could happen. Right now, here's my thought process on it. I don't give a damn what the other teams are looking at. I don't give a damn if we don't even need him a lot this season, because the reality of it is, unless a team comes with an offer that you look at and you're like, we can't pass this up even for the depth, you want depth out there. Injuries happen far too often in the NFL. And even if it's not the long-term injuries, like last year, McFadden had to step up for Joe Thuney. Joe Thuney was probably the most consistent Chicago Bear that we had in regards to that one, right? But at the same time, could the Bears, who are, getting ready to start facing a cap crunch in the next couple of years, look at it, if teams come offering some draft compensation that the Bears do need and they feel like they can really get some good talent with it, could you do it, right? Like, could a day 3 pick be enough to get Jordan McFadden out of you? That's the question that you have in regards to that. Keep in mind, the Bears found Kyle Monangai in round 7. They found Jordan Vandenberg late in the draft, right? Like those type of things. So I think when you look at it, is that McFadden is probably going to have a solid training camp. And if the other 31 teams around the league are looking at this and saying, hey, this is a team that, because his playoff start against the Rams gave them some real tape to look at, and they can look at him to come in and provide some depth or some injuries that they have, cool, great. But my thought process on it is, this ain't the old school Bears. Like, y'all, I think so many people talk about the Bears as if we're still the little brother, the one that's never going to get over the hump, the one that's not trying to be a Super Bowl contender. Like, at this point, depth becomes just as important as anything else if you're trying to actually get far into the playoffs, and God forbid you're trying to make a Super Bowl. So listen, I look at it and I say this, cool if he has a strong training camp, cool if he has a strong preseason, because we're not going to play a lot of our starters. You're going to get a lot of tape on guys like this. But I tell you what, in regards to it, unless you're offering a crazy pick, like a day 3 pick would kind of be hard to pass up for your backup left guard. Like it'll be very difficult for that in those moments to pass up. But at the same time, you got to look at the risk tolerance, I guess, is to use that word again, of potentially ruining some quality depth that you have there if you want to have this run. And I think that's the question that the Bears are going to really have to look at tough when it comes to all these type of questions on, not only who's on the roster bubble, who could make the roster, who could not make the roster, who could be traded, who could not be traded. Like, you have to really look at this thing and say to yourself of, like, yeah, okay, cool, it's a day 3 pick, and a day 3 pick could become a lot. We found quality late in the draft, but at the same time, if this is a quality backup for a team that's trying right now to be a legitimate force in the East, in the NFC North, again, I'm thinking about the Chicago Bulls, my bad, in the NFC North, then what do you want to do in that regard, right? That's the question that they're going to have to ask in looking at that. And I'll say this, like, McFadden, to me, is a guy that, he stepped up, he played really well for the Chicago Bears, but we don't really have a lot of guard depth. anymore. Like, we just don't. I know we have, like, we're going to talk about Kiran Amegadjie coming up next and him and what what could happen with him this offseason. But outside of Jordan McFadden, you're looking at you go quickly to Luke Newman, who isn't necessarily a left or right guard. I think you can play either one. You also have Caden Barnett, who can play either guard position, potentially. So you have some young guys there that maybe if you feel confident about those guys coming into training camp, but we'll see. It wouldn't be the first time that Ryan Poles got an offer for a player in training camp. Keep in mind what we got offered before, like in the fact that we passed on it. But I think overall, like, I just think, like, you don't want to take a risk and ruin some depth that is going to be there solidly for you if you don't need to. But let me know what you guys think down below. Jordan McFadden being a name that reportedly a lot of teams around the NFL are watching and monitoring, seeing what he does in preseason and training camp, because they could come calling with a offer for the Chicago Bears. Let me know what you guys think on that part down below. Now, the last time I did a solo episode, which at this point was like 3-4 days ago, I talked about players that were on the roster bubble. Two players I did not mention that actually have popped up by clutch points as two players that are on the roster bubble for the Chicago Bears are Kiran Amegadjie and Noah Sewell. Now, I'm a little bit surprised to see Noah Sewell's name there just because he had moments of looking really good, but I think the reasoning that they laid out here actually does paint a pretty strong picture on why they could be. So let's first talk about Kiran Amegadjie and why clutch points list Kiran Amegadjie as somebody on that roster bubble saying this. Kiran Amegadjie came to the Bears with plenty of potential as a third-round pick in 2024. However, injuries have taken a major bite out of his career. He appeared in 6 games during his rookie season, starting none of them, but Amegadjie didn't play snap during the sophomore campaign. Chicago's glaring weak spot on the offensive line is left tackle. With Ozzie Trapillo hurt, Braxton Jones and Jedrick Wills are expected to hold down the fort. With Theo Benedict operating as a swing tackle, there isn't much room for him out on the outside. The Bears are locked in at their guard positions and are too deep at center. While Amegadjie could operate as interior depth, he hasn't proven to be up to the task. There will be a common trend on this list of who. Oh, well, there you go in regards to that. Kiran Amegadjie, a player that did come in with a lot of potential. We knew he was very raw in regards to that. I think he came out of Yale, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. But it's no doubt about it that he has not shown up in any meaningful way for the Chicago Bears at all. And eventually, like, all the potential in the world doesn't keep you on the roster if you're not showing or doing anything with that. And at this point, Kiran Amegadjie has been passed up by a lot of people. Not only is Jedrick Wills ahead of him as a player if he's going to be fully healthy. Ozzie Trapillo, who's not healthy now, he came in and passed him up as well. Theo Benedict came in and passed up Kiran Amegadjie at that time also. And the thing that I always look at with this is that it all comes down to how Dan Roushar views it, right? Dan Roushar is the end-all be-all, and I think that there is a line drawn in the sand now in a lot of ways between players that were acquired before Ben Johnson, right? And even though Ryan Poles has been here that whole time, and players that were acquired afterwards. Kiran Amegadjie may just not have ever impressed Ben Johnson and therefore may not have that same role or even that same standing on his potential that the last coaching staff had. And it could be a reason why we didn't see Kiran Amegadjie any last season. So in regards to it, I don't think that there's any real reason I could say that Kiran Amegadjie is not on the roster bubble. He could very well not make this final 53-man roster. Now, could the Bears retain him as a practice squad guy? Could be, right, if they still want to see if there's anything in there to still develop with him. But overall, I would not be surprised at all if Kiran Amegadjie is not on the roster. The next up, Noah Sewell, right? They listed this and saying at linebacker, the Bears' top 3 options are locked in with TJ Edwards, Devin Bush, and DeMarco Jackson. When it comes to their depth and predicting who will make the final roster, things get murkier. Chicago selected Keyshawn Elliott in the 5th round of the 2026 draft. They also signed Jack Sanborn in free agency. They both have to earn spots, but the Bears targeted them for a reason. That already brings the team up to 5 linebackers. It seems unlikely that they would carry 7, meaning Noah Sewell and Ruben Hippolyte could be battling for that one spot. In that case, Hippolyte would get the edge. First off, he was personally drafted by Johnson, and he was considered a project and a bit of a reach in the 4th round, but it also shows how highly Chicago thinks of him. Hippolyte didn't make much of an impact in 2026, recording 4 total tackles, but he would need to step up in 2025, and he would step up in 2026 to keep his spot long term. But the Bears won't cut ties, barring a poor training camp or preseason. So Noah Sewell, a guy that had his moments last year. I would say this, Noah Sewell last season had moments where it finally looked like he was putting all those things together. And I even said, like, hey, this goes to show what a new coaching staff can do for a team and use players differently. Now, there's no doubt about it. Nobody would say that he played in a way he couldn't stay healthy in regards to that and all that type of stuff. He appeared in, in 13 games last year he played in, and he had 59 tackles, a forced fumble in that time period as well, but he earned a 41.9 Pro Football Focus grade, ranking 81st among 88 linebackers. So it's not like he really blew anything out of the water in regards to that. Training camp's going to give Sewell an opportunity, but, according to what's laid out here in this article, I can't really fight or argue that Noah Sewell could be on his way out long-term for the Chicago Bears. Let me know what you guys think about Kiran Amegadjie and Noah Sewell and their long-term potential on the Chicago Bears roster. Do you think both these guys find themselves on the outside looking in? Let me know what you guys think on that part down below. But then I want to talk about the Bears safety group, because there's been a lot made over the last couple of days in regards to the Chicago Bears safeties. Two of them, right? Well, the two new starting safeties in Dylan Thieneman and Kobe Bryant. Let's start off with Dylan Thieneman on the positive side in regards to it. It seems like more and more people are starting to recognize that the Bears may have gotten a steal of the draft in Dylan Thieneman, right? You look at how he's been talked about a lot as well. Bleacher Report's Christopher Knox said this in regards to him. Seeing as how Chicago parted with 2025 starting safeties Kevin Byard and Jaquan Brisker, Thieneman should indeed have the inside track to starting alongside Bryant. There's no real question about that. And Bryant, a former Seahawks starter and Super Bowl champion, should help Thieneman provide the sort of edge that the Bears secondary has been missing. Thieneman is going to be the real deal in 2026 for the Bears. Thieneman was great in college, and he attended Purdue and Oregon. His key stats include 14 pass breakups, 10 tackles for a loss, 8 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and Pro Football Focus gave him a coverage grade of 90.5. Here's the thing. Have people really been doubting if Dylan Thieneman is good? Like, that's a question that I have in regards to that. And, it goes again to, I think, a lot of things that people say, like a lot of you guys leave voicemails on and stuff like that. Like, there's almost an inherent doubt when the Chicago Bears draft somebody that other teams are giving more caveats for. If the Bears draft or sign somebody, that they're almost like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a steal for the team because of X, right? When it comes to the Chicago Bears, it seems like there's an initial reason to doubt first, and then you have to almost prove that it was the right decision. It is what it is there. It's always happened. Again, like I said earlier, I'm about to be 40 years old. In my 40 years of life, it's happened every step of the way for the Chicago Bears. But here's what I'm going to say in regards to this one. The Chicago Bears, their new safeties, their new 1-2 punch with Kobe Bryant and Dylan Thieneman are not going to survive and live strictly off takeaways. Not to say that that's what Jaquan Brisker or Kevin Byard did either. I think they did a lot more than that some people have kind of just tried to just make their, especially Byard's contributions to getting interceptions and a lot more than that. But when you look at it in regard to it, the Chicago Bears team lost over 50% of the turnovers that it created by players, and that's players who left in free agency, like between Jaquan Brisker, Kevin Byard, Nashawn Wright, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a lot of the guys that were part of the identity of getting those turnovers for the Bears are no longer in the building. So now the Bears have to forge a new identity. And this now about training camp is about this safety group forging their own identity, and that being more functional, consistent defense than just the turnovers. Are they still going to get that? There's a lot of reason to believe that they will with how this coaching staff coaches up to get those turnovers, and don't doubt them in regards to that one. But there just seems to be more doubt in regards to it. And that gets me to my next topic. Kobe Bryant, who was left off the top 10 safety list. We talked about ESPN and them doing their ratings, the top 10 by position. And Kobe Bryant had one simple response to this. They gonna see. That's it. That's what he said in regards to it. And I think when you look at it, in 15 games, with the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks last year, Kobe Bryant racked up 66 tackles, 7 pass deflections, 4 tackles for a loss, a career-high 4 interceptions as well, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery, and he had a 65.5 overall grade, but 45th among 98 eligible safeties in 2025. Now, those aren't nearly numbers you look at and you're like, you're for sure a top 10 player, and I'm not even here to make that argument. What I'm here to make is that you have motivation on this team and on this defense. You had Caleb Williams a couple of weeks ago saying we see it. We see the doubt. We see everything in regards to that, and saying that players are being fake if they act like they don't see it, right? You've had TJ Edwards and other players also talk about that they see how the Chicago Bears defense is being talked about. But here it comes down to. It comes down to proving it. Go out there and prove what you got. And this Bears team has a lot of players that are very, very, very hungry, to say the least. And that hunger could lead to this Bears team. Like, hungry Bears are very dangerous, right? And so, this is a Bears team that could have easily rested on, we accomplished this last year. We got a playoff victory under the first-year head coach, but they did not do that. This Bears team went out and found ways to improve. Now, I know a lot of people, because they didn't go out and get a big-time edge, have doubts about how much the Bears defense has improved. But I'm telling y'all, this is going to be an improved defense. How much they improve, that remains to be seen by how some players make leaps and in their development, stuff like that, how some things work together. So I'm not ready to say that they're just going to be make the leap into the top half of the NFL, but I do think they're going to be better. I don't think they're going to be 25th this upcoming year. I think they're going to be better than rank of that. How much better really determines on a couple of other things and other scenarios, but this is going to be a better defense. And it being a better functional defense and more consistent in how they perform. C-Dub said it in the last episode that we did together. It's about third downs and red zones for both the offense and defense. How efficient can you be on your third down scenarios? How efficient can you be in getting teams off? And how efficient can you be in the red zone and keeping teams from scoring touchdowns? That's going to be the thing in regards to this team. And that's what I can't wait to see how this team grows and develops this year, because I think it's going to be a very fun one. But that's going to do it for today, y'all. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. Make sure you guys are following us at Shy Bear Central. Well, first, before that, sound off in the comment section down below, man. I want to hear how you guys feel on all these topics down below. Always sound off down there. Make sure you guys go off, make that comment section jumping. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Shy Bear Central on every social media platform. You send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bears related. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Chi-Town up, Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.